Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to CFL Central, CFL content for the fans, by the fans. And we have our Week 20 review of CFL action. Had only 3 games this week, one of the few weeks, only 3 games on. And then we're going to have 3 games for our next week, the second last week of the CFL season. Actually, the last week of the CFL season. Because I just realized
this was second last week.
I just realized that the week 22 on the Score app is actually the semifinals. So only 3 games this week, and we're gonna start off with definitely the most important one, which was the Calgary Stampeders versus the BC Lions. The Calgary Stampeders with a decisive victory, 41-16. Over the Lions. Calgary with a full lineup. BC with a full lineup. If I'm BC, I'm worried because first off, this win for the Stampeders would kick BC out of the running for the Western Final, and the Bombers would clinch the second this game was over. The Western Final. However, more importantly, it was most likely that Saskatchewan was going to lose to Toronto. So with Calgary winning, they put all the pressure on the Rough Riders. And despite the Rough Riders actually playing better than they normally did, they would still come up short. And Calgary would secure their spot in the playoffs where the Saskatchewan Rough Riders fell so hard this year. I can't believe the sheer amount of bad luck and blunders that has plagued this team, and the Riders look like to a certain degree they're doing a certain level of house cleaning already, but we'll get to that when we're talking about the Riders. But talking about the Stamps versus the Lions here, this game was huge for Calgary, and oh my god, you know what happened that was unbelievable, Rick? You're never gonna guess it. You know what it is? Do you know what it is?
What was that?
What was it? They ran the football. Holy shit! The Calgary Stampeders have learned how to run the football. Oh my god.
However,
Logan with over 100. Kadeem Carey runs for 88. So much better of a game in the rushing department for the Calgary Stampeders.
I'm going to point one thing out. Mm-hmm. Have you taken a look at the receiving yards? Because 123 yards and the most to the receiver, Reggie Bangleton, for 66 yards. When your running back, Kadeem Carey, only has 26.
Do you not see McInnes?
That ain't going to win you games in the future,
do you not see
friends.
McInnes has 108.
I'm talking about Calgary, my friend, not BC.
Why is my thing here?
McInnes is on BC.
Then why the fuck is he listed on Calgary? Hold on a second. I gotta check this. Did the Score app accidentally put him on the wrong team? What?
Calgary last week.
Look at the score. Stats. Look at the Score app. It has McInnes on Calgary. Yeah.
They put the BC player
on my Calgary. God. Okay, never mind. No, I was confused because I was like, wait a minute, but McInnes got 108. But then when you mentioned him, I'm like, yeah, he is on BC. What's going on here? So the Score, holy shit. Like, I understand you missing stats, but having guys in the complete wrong teams is bad. But yeah, they do have to do more in the throwing department. 10 for 21, not what you hope for from Jake Mayer. 2 touchdown passes is good, no interceptions. Although there were some that were close. I think you look to up that passing percentage and up your passing yardage. But the big thing here that just came up huge for Calgary was the defense. They caused so many problems for BC, and BC it seemed like they just could not. They couldn't get around it. So they'd have Dane Evans.
Let's just say,
yeah.
I was just gonna say I have a big smile on my face because the BC Lions have now seen the true identity of the Hamilton version of Dane Evans.
I thought they saw that when we stomped BC the second game in Winnipeg.
But
because I had Dane Evans playing that game, and he did not have a good game.
Dane Evans threw 3 picks against Calgary.
Yeah, so I guess the score app just isn't telling me anything because it has 1 touchdown, 0 interceptions, but I was pretty sure he threw a few picks. So maybe I gotta stop using this fucking app. Like this thing is just missing up stuff all over the place.
Dane Evans had 125, 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions. Yep. Vernon Adams had 116, 0 touchdowns, 1 interception. Hardy had 41 yards for 1 touchdown. They're running back. The next person after that was Dane Evans with 16 yards.
Yep.
For rushing. Like I was saying, after the Dane Evans, we had Justin McInnes with 108 yards. Cody had 64, and then it drops right down to Lucky Whitehead, who had 36. And then all the rest of Hollins had 16, Rhymes had 15, and then it just went down from there. Except for Matthew.
I can't believe they threw that Dominic Rhymes had 1 reception this game.
No, he had 2 for 15 yards.
2 for 15 yards? Oh, okay. Mine has 1 listed here. So
Hollins had 3 for 16, which doesn't really average out too much.
Yep.
But yeah, so Matthew Betts is the new Canadian leader in sacks. So
cool beans. It's funny. It's kind of like the record-breaking sack was like technically it was a sack, but like he didn't do much on it. But a sack's a sack. And
oh yeah, I seen a couple of those where it's like they got the sack, then it was a penalty. Okay, and then it's like, okay, does the sack count on a penalty? And then he would get another one, and then it was a penalty. It's like, just give him the sack already.
Just give him the damn award already. But yeah,
I will say though,
yeah.
I didn't mean to cut you off. The penalties in this game,
oh my goodness, it was just
Lord.
BC was just shooting themselves in the foot over and over and over and over again. And the amount of just really undisciplined penalties, not like the stupid penalties like, oh, I forgot the count, so we got procedure. I'm talking about like the play is done, the play is over, it's 3rd down, they're about to punt, and you decide to headbutt someone. Or no, the guy, he punched him in the head. He's wearing a helmet. They're about to punt. But you punching them in the face, which, by the way, does nothing because they're wearing a helmet, now results in them getting a 1st down, which is like, that is like, and it's funny because I saw him go to the sidelines, and BC's head coach, I can't remember his name, holy crap, he ripped him an asshole yay fucking wide. Holy shit. He got on the sidelines, and like, I'm just watching, this is what I see. And I'm like watching home going, yeah, you know what? He deserved it. He did, and that's the thing. And I think they would get, would someone get tossed from this game? I'm trying to remember.
Oh, yes. So that same person that you were just talking about.
Yeah, he got tossed, didn't he?
Shoved him, and then he turned and gave him a left or right hook. And then he got ejected because he got 2 misconducts.
That was supposed to be 3rd down, I believe. I believe that was the one where it was going to 3rd down, but his stupidity caused a 1st down. And it's one of those things where penalties can make or break a game. You're a Hamilton Tiger Cats fan. You know this. You know that penalties can kill you. And so it's one of those things where, like BC just completely so much self-sabotage in this game. Calgary was playing a lot better than usual. Very well defensively. Played decent offensively, but the defense was carrying the weight in this. And it's going to be one of those things where if BC is going to want Vernon Adams to be able, if he's going to cook, if VA is going to cook, You got to give him room. You got to give him the space. You got to give him the protection in that pocket. And he just didn't have that in the pocket in this game. So overall, there's not much more I have to say. Is there anything else you got here for the Stampeders-Lions game?
No, there's nothing else I have left.
All right, perfect. So we'll get in. That was our Friday game. We'll get into the Saturday game here. We have the Toronto Argonauts versus the Saskatchewan Roughriders. And this game was a lot more entertaining than it should have been, as the Saskatchewan Roughriders decided to play football for the first half of this game, which feels really weird. We're not used to that. But it was one of those things where Riders, they came out swinging. They were up 10-7 after the first quarter, and after at halftime, they were up 17-16 over the Toronto Argonauts. So it's one of those things where Saskatchewan finally seeming like they maybe got a bit of fight in them, as they're hoping to stay in that playoff spot. And they come out good in the third, putting up 6-3 against Toronto. However, Toronto would smack them back down to reality in the fourth with 10 points for the Argonauts, only 3 for Saskatchewan, and Saskatchewan would lose and be eliminated from playoff contention, as just the day prior, as we've talked about, the Calgary Stampeders beat the BC Lions. And so this is one of those things where the Saskatchewan Roughriders, there's a lot of stuff going on with their organization now. I think we'll need a whole video to talk about that. So let's try not to get too much into that here. Let's try to focus specifically on the game. How did you feel about this game?
Considering that Jake Dolegala had 429 passing yards, and I'm going to take a word out of your playbook.
Yeah.
Their rushing game took a big shit.
Yep. Yeah, no, it took a nosedive. They
37 rushing yards in total.
37 rushing yards and 45 attempts to throw the ball. Like, even that, like, it's one of those things where if you're trying to throw the ball 45 times, you shouldn't be surprised when you start throwing picks. And it's one of those things where, Dolegala would go 2 for 2, unless my thing is wrong here, which it has been before multiple times this video. Holy shit.
Yes, it's two touchdowns, 2 interceptions.
Oh, there we go. It was accurate for once. That's nice. If there is any plus side here for Saskatchewan, was that they did get a lot out of their receivers this game, with Emelis and Bain Jr. both being over 130 yards, and Schaefer Baker hitting 90. So, good job there on the receiving side of things. But
for 2 touchdowns.
For 2 touchdowns. But it's one of those things. So the receivers so the problem isn't the receivers that they have in Saskatchewan. I actually think the receiving core in Saskatchewan is quite good. I think that they need, with Emelis, Bain Jr., and Schaefer Baker, that's a solid trio there. And then with Morrow, when he's having a stronger game, didn't really have it this past week. That's a solid receiving core. It's one of those things where they need a starting quarterback with them. They need a guy like Trevor Harris in that situation, and it just has not been able to be accomplished the entirety of the season just due to injuries. But it was one of those things where Saskatchewan, like I said, they were in a position where they could have closed. They could have closed this playoff race just weeks and weeks and weeks ago, but they just kept throwing it away. And so, Toronto, despite the fact that they, had a slow start to this game, they were able to kind of persevere and get all the way on top. Over how do you even say this name?
Daniel
Adenoboye. There we go. Is over 100 yards rushing for him. Excellent. AJ Ouellette, he would go for 11 rushes, only got 50 yards on that. So, not, I guess, as much as you would expect from Ouellette, but not a bad performance by any means. A touchdown apiece for those two. Coxie would go over 100 yards receiving. Overall, the receiving core was okay for this game. Rushing was relatively strong. And that's been a strong suit for Toronto. And Saskatchewan, I don't know what it is, but their D-line this year hasn't been able to do what it has been able to do in the past. Good amount of time for Cameron Dukes playing this game. Not just Chad Kelly, who would go 18 for 25, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, 275 yards on the night. So not a bad performance by any means by Chad Kelly. But I mean, overall, there's not a whole lot to talk about this game other than really the implications of this game in the sense of, Toronto now will be finishing the season with at the bare minimum they get with a bare minimum of 15 wins, most likely going to go 16-2 on the season. So a unreal season here coming out of Toronto. So the implications in that regard, and obviously the implications of the Saskatchewan Roughriders being eliminated from playoff contention. So there's not really much more I got, but
don't forget Toronto did finish undefeated at home this season, going 9-0.
That is important to mention. Another thing that's important to mention is that the Toronto Argonauts did not play the Winnipeg Blue Bombers at home this year. So, I'm sorry, I had to say that. But yeah, so no, that is an impressive stat.
The one interesting thing that I will say before we go into our next game, is this upcoming week is going to be the week of all weeks. Because Toronto has had 560 points for, Winnipeg has 558 points for. Who is going to finish with the better offense this season?
Who cares, though? That's the thing. As a Bomber fan, I don't give a rat's ass.
As a Bomber fan, you can say that, but other fans of other teams...
Yes, all the fans who aren't Toronto and Winnipeg fans care. All the Bomber and Argo fans are thinking about they're thinking about these beautiful things that they have been blessed with these past few years, and so they're hoping. I think it's time for number 3, baby. I think it is. The dynasty didn't die; it was just delayed, but. I will get out of my Winnipeg Blue Bombers preachy mode for a minute. So overall, interesting game, and a lot of implications coming out of it. And Rick, I think we need to do the Saskatchewan Roughriders video because that is a whole can of worms on its own, and I want to leave it for that. But we got one more game.
I was going to say, that was all for me. Let's go to Carter's favorite game of
Exactly. The Winnipeg Blue Bombers defeat the Edmonton Elks by a score of 45-25. Good thing for the Bombers, they would outscore the Edmonton Elks in all 4 quarters of this game, which is always a good thing for you. And overall, there's not much I can complain about. Zach Collaros would go 13 for 16, so not a ton of throwing coming out of Winnipeg this game. Drew Brown would go a perfect 7 for 7. Drew Brown, again, showing how he somehow plays better when going into a game later rather than starting the game, from the start. We will have to see how that goes next week because if what I saw was correct, that's what it's sounding like. Oliveira would go 72 yards on 14 rushes, 41 for Johnny Augustine. Johnny Augustine did well when he went in. So overall, not too much to complain about there. No receiver cracked 100 yards. However, Kenny Lawler got close with 98. However, there would be a big drop off there as the load would be shared by a lot of guys, whether it was Wolotarski, Dembski, Bailey, Oliveira, McRae. Nice to see McRae in, and Grant. And Grant had a few really, really good returns. So that was kind of the Bomber side of things.
I was going to say, this game I did not see, but my big question to you was, did Collaros hold on to the ball this week?
Did Collaros hold on to in what regard?
Ball. No, because wasn't it last week where he fumbled it twice?
Yeah. No, he didn't fumble the ball. It was great. Seeing him not just hit the ball and there it goes, mamma mia. It was nice to not see that. One thing that is actually very important to note is the Edmonton Elks. The Edmonton Elks got a kickoff return touchdown. They did, which you're thinking, why are you saying this, Carter? This is the Edmonton Elks' first kickoff return touchdown since, drumroll, ladies and gentlemen. Rick, drumroll, please. 2015. Oh my goodness, almost a decade. But they finally got it in this game.
One thing I will say.
Yep.
First one as an Elk. Because back in 2015, they were the Eskimos.
Yes, or unless I'll have to check the 1930-something Edmonton Elks that existed for one season.
No. I'm saying since they switched it.
I know. Since the modern name change, yes. So the first one as an Elk, but since 2015, almost a decade. Guys, get your shit together. But they were able to get it done. So good on them in that regard. This is one of those things, not the most impressive game for Trey Ford. We go 228 yards, so not bad in that regard, but only 12 for 22 in terms of his completion percentage, so not exactly what you would hope for. Brown would be leading the rushing game with 41. A phenomenal game for Eugene Lewis, 158 receiving yards. And no touchdowns, however, 158 yards, important to talk about here. Now, the thing is that is kind of that 158 yards, no touchdowns, Elks lose the game is a little bit of a summary of the Elks season in the sense of they just haven't. They weren't able to get to the playoffs, which was a goal for them. They weren't able to. However, they went out swinging. And now they didn't start swinging, but I think the Elks. The thing to keep in mind is that the Elks going into next season, the main thing is just to the Elks. They weren't focused on this. They're focusing on next season and preparing for that. So this is not a bad performance in that regard.
I will leave this off with this question for you.
Yep.
This comes back to something that we discussed at the beginning of the season. So, how much do we believe of what Chris Jones bloody tells us? Because he had mentioned today that going into next season, it was Trey Ford's job to lose. And what happened this year? Trey Ford didn't get the starting job because it went to Taylor Cornelius. So again, are we going to believe what he says next season?
I think Trey Ford is going to be the starter whether Chris Jones wants it or not. For the simple fact of the matter is, up until this season, Trey Ford has gone in. He's played a little bit here and there, but we've never really seen a definitive set of games where Trey Ford was the guy leading the charge, and that's what we saw. And I mean, this Trey Ford charge that we saw went from getting that first win at home, getting another win, getting a few more, and then all of a sudden, playoffs has become a question. The answer was no. However, that was a question that did come up. There was a possibility, and so it's one of those things where if you have a quarterback that can really bring life back to your team like that and can give them hope, and was playing far better than the guy that was there before, I think it would be right for the Edmonton Elks to try to roll with him.
So the one thing that I will mention.
Yep.
Just looking this up here. So, Elks finish with the worst record. Then it goes Ottawa. Then it goes Saskatchewan. So
unless Ottawa has one more game, so they could finish with an equally bad record.
Yeah, but they will end up with most likely the the point differential.
Oh, I see. I can't remember.
Yeah. So here comes the one last question that I will leave in our fans' wondering minds for this stream.
Yep.
With Trey Ford as the starting quarterback in Edmonton, do you take a wild pick on that first overall pick? Because we all know who it's going to be. Do you skip it and go with someone else?
No.
Or do you draft a certain quarterback, but then what do you do with Trey Ford? Let's start the controversy, people.
I think you You pick if you're going to be getting the number one pick, you pick who the number one pick is. You don't. No.
But you go with need though, and their need may not be at quarterback.
Yeah,
which means
but if a player of that caliber is available, you take him. You take him. And I think that's what the answer is. However, that is a topic for a future for another time when we get closer to draft. That's what we'll do. But overall, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure you guys like, share, and subscribe if you have not already. Comment down below what you guys thought of this week's CFL games, and I will see you guys next time.